Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sela Social Studies. Alright, so last time I left you off, we covered the North. We talked about everything that was going on in the North. We have technology, we have industry, we have factories, we have people moving into the cities to take factory jobs. We have inventors and their effects. We have Eli Whitney, the cotton gin, Cyrus McCormick, John Deere. We talked about interchangeable parts, and we talked about mass production. We talked about factories and cities and labor unions. All right, so we talked about all that type of stuff. We also got into communication and transportation of the North, where you have the steamboat, you have the railroad. But what is going on here in the South? This is what we're going to cover this chapter. Chapter 13, the South and slavery. If the North and the South would be a coin, you'd have a heads and a tails. You would have to look at, the South being one of those sides, the North being the other side. So let's say if the North was the heads, the South would be the tails, a totally flip side of that coin. So what are we talking about when we talk about the South? Well, we're going to get into the institution of slavery. How important slavery was to the South. What did slave traders do at auctions? What the family separations. You have Nat Turner's Rebellion we're going to cover, so we're going to cover a slave rebellion, how slaves were being treated in the South, what their living conditions were like. So we're going to dive into that part of slavery. Now you can have a whole school year worth of slavery, so this is just going to be kind of a brief story about what happens. The next thing we're going to get into is the people of the South, right? Who are the people of the South? What are the demographics like in the South? Well, we had slaves for sure. We've been covering that all year. The southern states had slaves, but who else was down there? Did you know that there was a slave owner that actually worked side by side with his slaves? There were different types of slave owners. You had planters, you had yeoman farmers, you had poor white farmers. So we're going to go into which part of the population or which size of the population each one of those are, and how each one of those people lived. And the last thing we're going to go into is the Southern economy. From the 1600s, you're talking about the Southern economy being based on things tobacco. Well, now because of the cotton gin and because of the cheap American cotton and the effect that it has on slavery, we are going to go from a tobacco-based economy where tobacco is our number one export to cotton. We become the cotton king. We really call it, an area of our land, the Cotton Belt. We're going to talk about what happens to tobacco. We're going to talk about who we're trading cotton with. We're going to talk about if there's going to be lots of factories and transportation in the South and what effect that if you did or didn't have those on. So look forward to that type of stuff in chapter 13, and I'll give you a review again.